It's 3 a.m. You're awake again. Not because you're stressed, not because you drank too much coffee, but because something inside your biology has shifted, and nobody told you what it was. This video is about that shift.
Most people think sleep problems are a symptom of a busy life, too much stress, too much screen time, not enough discipline at night. And those things matter, but there's a biological layer beneath all of them that operates independently of your habits and that gets significantly worse after 40. Here's what the research shows. A 2026 review published in PMC analyzing decades of sleep and endocrine studies confirmed that sleep loss in men directly suppresses testosterone production and simultaneously elevates cortisol in the late afternoon and evening, not slightly, measurably, consistently across dozens of independent studies. And here's the mechanism that makes this dangerous. Testosterone and cortisol are opposing forces in your body. Testosterone is your primary anabolic signal. It builds muscle, drives energy, supports libido, and protects bone density. Cortisol is your primary catabolic signal. It breaks tissue down, elevates blood sugar, and keeps your nervous system in a state of alert. When sleep is disrupted, testosterone falls and cortisol rises. And elevated evening cortisol makes sleep worse, which drops testosterone further, which raises cortisol again. The cycle doesn't just affect how you feel the next morning. It affects your hormonal baseline, your metabolic function, and, according to a March 2026 study published in Springer Nature, your rate of biological aging. My name is Dr. Nathan Cole. This is Hidden Health Protocol. Let's go inside what's actually happening while you're trying to sleep.
Let me start by reframing something fundamental, because most people have a completely wrong mental model of what sleep actually is. Sleep is not rest. Rest is what you do on a Sunday afternoon on the couch. Sleep is something categorically different. Sleep is the most metabolically active maintenance period your body has. While you're unconscious, your brain is clearing toxic waste through the glymphatic system. Your pituitary gland is releasing growth hormone, the primary signal for cellular repair and muscle recovery. Your immune system is running its most intensive repair and calibration cycle. Your gut microbiome is completing its circadian maintenance functions. Your hippocampus is consolidating the day's learning into long-term memory. And critically, for men over 35, the majority of your daily testosterone production happens during sleep, specifically during the first 3 hours of uninterrupted sleep, according to research published in the Asian Journal of Andrology. This is the critical window. If that window is disrupted by fragmented sleep, by cortisol elevation, by poor sleep architecture, your body misses its primary opportunity to produce the hormone that drives your energy, your muscle, your focus, and your libido the following day. This is not a lifestyle issue. This is an endocrine manufacturing issue. And after 40, the system becomes significantly more vulnerable to disruption.
Let me walk you through the specific biological cycle, because once you understand it, the exhaustion you've been experiencing makes complete sense. It starts with sleep restriction, not necessarily no sleep at all, just consistently less than your biology requires, 6 hours instead of 8, fragmented sleep, sleep that's light rather than deep. When sleep is restricted, the first thing that drops is testosterone. A landmark study published in JAMA followed healthy young men through 1 week of sleeping only 5 hours per night. By the end of the week, their testosterone levels had dropped by 10 to 15%. 1 week, healthy men, 10 to 15%. In men over 40, whose testosterone is already declining by 1 to 2% per year, that additional suppression compounds on top of natural decline. The research confirms this specifically. Sleep restriction in older men reduces not just testosterone levels, but testosterone pulse frequency, the rhythm of hormonal release that determines how effectively the body uses the testosterone it does produce. At the same time testosterone falls, cortisol rises, specifically in the late afternoon and early evening, the window when cortisol should naturally be at its lowest. Elevated evening cortisol
cortisol tells your nervous system to stay alert. It shortens your sleep cycles, it reduces the proportion of deep sleep you achieve, and it directly suppresses the testosterone production that's supposed to happen during those first 3 hours of sleep. Less testosterone means higher cortisol. Higher cortisol means worse sleep. Worse sleep means less testosterone. A 2026 review in PMC described this as a self-reinforcing cycle of catabolic-anabolic imbalance. Once it starts, it doesn't stop on its own, because the more sleep-deprived you become, the harder it is for your biology to restore the hormonal conditions that allow deep restorative sleep to occur. This is why people who are chronically sleep-restricted often report that they've simply stopped feeling rested. It's not psychological. Their biology has shifted into a state where restorative sleep becomes structurally more difficult to achieve.
Here's where this connects to everything we've covered across this series. Because the testosterone-cortisol disruption is only one dimension of what poor sleep does to your biology. Let me show you the others, because they map directly to the systems we've been tracking since Cluster 1. Sleep and the gut. We covered the gut microbiome in detail in Cluster 3. What the research confirms is that your gut bacteria operate on a circadian rhythm. They produce different compounds at different times of day and night. When sleep is disrupted, that rhythm breaks. The bacteria that produce butyrate, the short-chain fatty acid that fuels your gut lining and suppresses inflammation, reduce their output. The inflammatory bacteria that drive inflammaging increase theirs. Poor sleep doesn't just affect how you feel the next morning, it shifts the composition of your gut microbiome within days. Sleep and the brain. We covered the glymphatic system in Cluster 4. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid flows through the spaces between neurons, clearing amyloid beta and tau proteins, the compounds most strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease. A single night of disrupted sleep measurably increases amyloid accumulation in the brain. Chronic sleep disruption accelerates the accumulation across months and years. The superagers we studied in V15, the people who reach 80 with the brain of a 50-year-old, are without exception consistent protected sleepers. Sleep and inflammation. A single night of poor sleep raises IL-6 levels the following morning, the same IL-6 we tracked as a primary driver of inflammaging in V12. Chronic sleep disruption keeps inflammatory markers persistently elevated, feeding the same silent fire that destroys muscle, disrupts hormones, clouds cognition, and accelerates biological aging. Sleep and insulin resistance. The hormonal research is now unambiguous on this. The testosterone-cortisol imbalance caused by sleep restriction directly induces insulin resistance, verified in human trials through a novel dual hormone clamp study published in Clinical Trials Research in 2026. Poor sleep doesn't just make you tired, it makes your metabolism less efficient at a cellular level, with consequences for energy, body composition, and long-term cardiovascular risk. One system, 4 cascades, all preventable, all beginning with the same disruption.
So what does the research say you can actually do? Let me be precise, mechanisms, not marketing. First, protect the first 3 hours. This is the most important single insight from the sleep testosterone research. The first 3 hours of uninterrupted sleep are the critical window for testosterone production and growth hormone release. Anything that fragments that window, alcohol, a late meal, a warm bedroom, a screen in the hour before bed, directly disrupts the hormonal manufacturing cycle. Alcohol is worth addressing specifically because the research is consistently misunderstood. Even moderate alcohol consumption, 1 to 2 drinks, suppresses REM sleep and increases sleep fragmentation in the second half of the night. It doesn't prevent sleep onset, it prevents restorative sleep architecture. The feeling of falling asleep quickly after alcohol is sedation, not sleep. They are not the same thing. Second, temperature. Your core body temperature needs to drop by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate and sustain deep sleep. A bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, is consistently identified in sleep research as the optimal range. Most people sleep in rooms that are too warm. The consequence is lighter and more fragmented sleep that never reaches the deep stages where hormonal manufacturing occurs. Third, light timing. Your circadian rhythm is set primarily by light exposure. Morning sunlight within 30 to 60 minutes of waking activates the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your brain's master clock, and sets the timing for the cortisol awakening response. This morning cortisol peak, when cortisol is supposed to be high, is what enables cortisol to be appropriately low in the evening. Without the morning anchor, the cortisol rhythm drifts. Evening cortisol stays elevated, sleep architecture deteriorates. Fourth, consistent timing. The research on sleep regularity, going to bed and waking at the same time every day, including weekends, is more consistent than almost any other sleep intervention in the literature. Your gut bacteria, your hormonal rhythms, your immune function, and your cognitive performance all depend on circadian consistency. The single greatest disruptor of that consistency for most adults is the weekend sleep shift, staying up late Friday and Saturday and sleeping in Sunday. Researchers call it social jet lag. Its metabolic and hormonal consequences are measurable and significant.
Let me bring this together. Sleep is not rest. It is the most important biological maintenance period your body has. It is when testosterone is manufactured, when cortisol is regulated, when the gut performs its repair cycle, when the brain clears the proteins that accumulate into neurodegeneration, when insulin sensitivity is restored. After 40, sleep architecture becomes more vulnerable to disruption. Less time in deep sleep, less testosterone produced, more cortisol in the evenings, a self-reinforcing cycle that gets harder to break the longer it runs. The consequences are not abstract. They are the same systems we've been tracking across every cluster in this series: hormones, gut health, inflammation, cognition, biological aging. Every single one of them is downstream of sleep, not influenced by it, dependent on it. And the interventions that restore it are not complicated. Protect the first 3 hours, cool the room, get morning light, keep the timing consistent, remove alcohol from the equation if your sleep is fragmented. None of this requires a protocol. It requires understanding what sleep actually is and treating it accordingly. I've left a link in the description.